Snap software. So this is the first look of Snap software. Okay. Meanwhile, it is being launched in your system. Let me explain why Snap. First of all, see, the Snap software was initially developed by the European Space Agency for the processing of Sentinel-1A data and Sentinel-1B data. And later, this software has extended its facilities to process all of the European Space Agency satellites. Later, because of the popularity of this software, uh, this software started supporting the other SAR data as well as optical data. And now the Snap software supports most of all radar data, satellite-based radar systems, and also the optical systems. And this software is not only developed by the European Space Agency. Several other agencies are also involved in developing this software, the Snap software. Okay, this is the basic introduction. Now, why Snap? Because Snap is free. This is the first thing. That is why we prefer this software. And the second thing about the Snap is it is extremely powerful, especially for the SAR processing. In the commercial market, you may find several commercial software for the processing of SAR, but I am sure that you will not find this much of facilities or this much of tools that are provided by the Snap software in those commercial software. Whatever the commercial software you use, that cannot be compared with the Snap, the power of Snap. However, it has also some limitations. For example, since it is a free software and it is also being developed, so some problems are still there, and in some of the instances, it fails to run. So in such cases, simply what we do, we just close the software, restart the computer, and again run the computer, again run the run the Snap software for the analysis, and most of the time it performs its task. Even some of the users have reported that in a few instances uninstalling the software and reinstalling is required. Okay, so these are the problem. Now see, we are using the Snap software version 7. However, in the internet, Snap version 8 is available. So you may also download the version 8, and definitely it is the advanced version. But since the version 8 has been launched very recently, and it may be unstable, that is why we are using the previous version, version 7. Now see, in the first look of Snap, this is the title bar, then we have the menu bar, then we have the toolbars, then here we have the product explorer pane, then pixel info pane, then here we have the navigation pane. Okay, then we have color manipulation pane, then we have uncertainty information tab, and then we also have the world view tab. Okay, now see, first we have to open an image. Now, which image we are going to open? We are going to open the RadarSat-2 image for the San Francisco area. Okay, and if you open this folder, then you will find that it has 4 image bands. Okay, this is one TIFF file. This is a TIFF file. This is an HH polarization. Then we have the HV polarization, VH polarization, and VV polarization. That means it is in quad polarization. So this is basically quad pole data or quad polarization data, in which we have all of the polarization combinations HH, HV, VH, and VV. And also SRTM DEM for the same area has also been supplied, and other additional information are also there. Now see, we have to understand that radar data or SAR data are basically complex data set. Okay, that is why we refer this data as single loop complex data, SLC data, or multi-loop complex data. Okay, so whether it is a single loop complex data or multi-loop complex data, in both of the instances we use the term complex. That means that data set are not very simple, they are rather complex. Okay, so complex means it associates many information. So whenever we are opening an image or we are going to process a SAR data, we definitely should have all these images and these accompanying files, okay, in which we have the accompanying information, because the complex data set is not simply an image like optical image where we have a pixel and each pixel is associated with a DN value or the reflectance value. Instead of that, for each and every pixel, we have lot of information. For example, look angle, incidence angle, then lat long information. Then also we have the in phase backscatter information, quadrature phase backscatter information. So a lot of information will be there. And that is why this data set is called complex data. This is the first thing I'd like to mention. And second thing I'd like to mention is, you should forget everything about the optical remote sensing. See, in optical remote sensing, whatever we get, that is completely different than the SAR images. In case of SAR image, we extract some different type of information that cannot be extracted easily from the optical images. And as you know, that optical remote sensing, thermal remote sensing, and microwave remote sensing, they are complementary to each other. One is not replacing the another. So whatever you can perform in optical remote sensing should not be performed in the in the SAR or in the thermal, because they are providing different types of information, and you are getting some information or you are processing some information that cannot be performed on the optical images. So look at the SAR images in a different way than the optical. That is why I told you that you forget everything about optical and thermal remote sensing. You just concentrate on SAR remote sensing and try to understand that this is a new thing. We are going to explore a new world and we are going to learn some new things. It is not like pixel value based analysis, or it is not like pixel value based image classification, or pixel value based transformation like Fourier transformation, or Trussell cap transformation, or principal component transformation, or contrast enhancement kind of thing. So absolutely it is not like that. SAR processing is a different thing. So look at the SAR processing from a different point of view, not from the optical image processing point of view. Okay, so I think all of you are ready with the RadarSat-2 image. Now to open the RadarSat-2 image, we have to, I mean, not only RadarSat-2 image, for any kind of SAR image, it cannot be directly opened in the Snap software. It is necessary to be imported. Okay, and generally, while opening a radar image, we generally do not open the image directly. Okay, that means we will not open these files, this imagery HH, imagery HV, imagery VH, or imagery VV. These images will not be opened. We are not going to open these images. Rather, we are going to open the metadata file, and the metadata file contains all of the associated information and the files associated with it, and it will automatically open the necessary files. We not only have the image bands, rather we also have other kinds of information I will show you. So first thing is how to open a SAR image. So go to the file, not open product, go to the import, and then SAR sensors. Go to the SAR sensors. See, in a file import, we can import digital elevation model. Even we can import optical sensors. A lot of optical sensors are there. And in a category, for example, Landsat, we have several Landsat sensors listed over here. So as you can see, lot of sensors are there, and also they are adding new sensors in each and every version. So this is for the optical sensors. Now go to the SAR sensors, and also we have the vector data import facilities. Anyway, we are not going to deal with the vector. So go to the SAR sensors, and from the SAR sensors go for RadarSat-2. And as you can see in the SAR also we have a lot of sensors. Other than the European Space Agency, even they have included the Indian RISAT satellite, but RISAT satellite is not listed over here. I will explain how to add the RISAT image in a later session. So now we are going to add RadarSat-2. So click on RadarSat-2 sensor, and once you click on RadarSat-2 sensor, then it will ask to select the XML file. Okay, metadata files are stored in XML file format. And as you can see here, we have, I mean, if you go to the specified folder, your desired folder, then here you will get a file called product.xml. So you just click this product.xml file and click on import product, and the file or the data set, this is not a single file, the data set will be opened. See, here we have two tabs, Product Explorer and Pixel Info. Okay, first let me explain the Product Explorer tab. In the Product Explorer tab, you will have the data set name, and within a bracket you have the name 1. Okay, and let us try to understand the file name. Okay, the file name is also given by the software automatically, and as you can see, this name or this data set name is not matching with any of the file names over here. Okay, so the file name has also been given by the metadata file. What is the file name? First, see, RS2 means the sensor name, RadarSat-2. Then SLC means single look complex data. Okay. Then we have FQ9, ASC. These are the processing information, processing station information. Then the date on which it was captured, and also it has the ID, the product ID. For each and every product, they will have their internal ID. So this internal ID is also there. Now, if you click on this plus sign in the left hand side, you will find first you will find several folders. Okay, like metadata folder, vector data, type point grids, quick loops, and bands. Now let me explain one by one. First, metadata. If you click on metadata, then we have two sets of metadata. One is the abstracted metadata and another is the original product metadata. I do not recommend to open the original product metadata because in original product metadata, you will not have all kinds of information. Based on the original product metadata, the abstracted metadata will be generated by the software and it is rather easier to understand, and also it has better information or rather wider information, and this information will be extracted by the software automatically. So if how to get the abstracted metadata information, just double click on it. If you double click on it, it will open a window in this area where you can see the product name, then product type is SLC, means single loop complex data, then mission radar set 2, then acquisition mode, find quad polarization mode. As you know that we have all 4 different polarizations. Then antenna positioning, in which direction the antenna was positioned, etc., etc. Then procurement date and time, on which date and time it was procured. Then for the entire image, this is the first line time when the first line of this image was scanned, then when the last line of this image was scanned, then first line near range latitude value, first line near range longitude value, first line far range latitude value, first line far range longitude value, last line near range latitude, longitude, and so on. That means basically the geographic extent it is providing. So, sample type is complex, this single loop complex data, then in which polarizations the image is being provided. Then the spatial resolution, you can also see range resolution, then azimuth resolution. The range resolution is around 4.7 meter, then azimuth resolution is around 4.8 meter, and then pulse length, then radar, what was the frequency. So all this is huge information, lot of metadata information are there. Okay, and definitely this metadata information will help you to understand the product, what kind of data, from which sensor it was captured, when it was captured, what is the geographic extent. So all these things you can get. Now let me close this abstracted metadata information. If you click on this cross button, it will be closed. Okay, so next let me come to the next folder, vector data. Okay, here you will have the vector data if you have it, but currently for this image or for this kind of processing we do not have any kind of any type of vector data, so leave this one vector. Next is tie point grids. Okay, tie point, what is tie point grid? I will explain you later, and quick look will also be explained later, but before that to come to the bands, image bands. Okay, now see, image band, as you know that since it is a quad pole data, so we should have 4 bands or 4 images. One is the HH, VV, second is VV, then HV, and then VH. But as you can see here in the bands, how many bands we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That means 3 times greater than the number of images. The reason behind it is, you know, for each and every polarization, you will have 3 images. Okay. One is the I component, that means in phase component of HH polarization. So this one IHH, I underscore HH means in phase component of horizontal HH polarization. Then Q component of the HH polarization. Q component means quadrature phase HH polarization, and then the intensity HH polarization. Okay, intensity image. Normally, see, we prefer to interpret the images in terms of their intensity of the returned signal. I mean, the amount of signal that has been returned, or the amount of energy that has been returned from the Earth's surface. But unfortunately, in the radar image, we do not get the intensity image. Intensity images are generated mathematically. How do we generate the intensity image? It is generated simply with this formula, that is basically intensity image we can get by root over I square plus Q square. Okay, so thus we can get the intensity image. So for each and every polarization, we have three bands. Among these three, this IHH and QHH, okay, in phase HH and quadrature phase HH, these two are present, original image, okay, they are present. But the intensity HH, you can see that here we have a letter written over here, that is V. V means it is basically virtual band. That means it does not have the existence. The computer on the fly calculated the intensity component based on the I and Q, and it has been offered to the user. But this is a virtual band, and this cannot be saved directly. And for each and every polarization, we have all these three bands or all these three images. Okay, in phase VH, quadrature phase VH, and intensity image of VH. And as you can see in the original image, you do not have the I component, you do not have the Q component. Okay, it is simply imagery HH, but within this image, all of the data are there. Not only the I component, Q component, in addition to the I component and Q component, we also have other kinds of information or other kinds of images. Rather, I will explain. Let us try to display an image. Okay, first say I component of HH image. Okay, so double click on it. So this is the I component of HH image. Okay, and you have this zoom tools, zoom in. This is the panning tool. You also have zoom tools over here, as you can see, or you may use your mouse wheel to make it smaller or larger. In addition to that, you also have these zooming tools and also have this pan tool. I think all of you are aware of these tools. I mean, zooming tool and panning tool. So I do not need to demonstrate them. So now see, if I zoom this image to a specific level, say for example at this level, where we can identify each and every pixel, see, nothing can be interpreted from this image. We are unable to understand anything. It is like a noise. Nothing. Even, you cannot identify a single feature. So this is the image. Yes, this is true. Radar images come like this. And it is the responsibility of the analyst to make them interpretable. This was the I component. Now let us launch the Q component. Okay, double click on it. Now see, we have two windows. This is representing the I component. This is representing the Q component. Okay, and let me zoom it again. You see, we cannot interpret anything. It is absolutely like noise. Okay, so now let us launch intensity component. Okay, the virtual intensity HH component. Double click on it. This is the intensity image. Okay, and let me show it. This is somehow interpretable. You can understand the topographic structure, geologic structure. Okay, and also some linear features can be identified. Then here we have the water body. This can also be identified. And see, here we have a bridge that can also be identified. But still, this image is extremely noisy. And if we come to the lower part, then in this area we have urban infrastructure. But I can say it because I have interpreted this image several times. But for general people, it is extremely difficult to say that this is urban infrastructure, because the image is extremely noisy. So we have to process this image to make it interpretable. And as you can see here in the sea, you can identify several ships. These are the ships because of the metallic structure and it's because of its dielectric property. These ships are appearing very bright. We have already discussed in theory what is the dielectric property and how the dielectric property influences the reflectance. The objects, Earth surface objects, which has higher electrical property, they reflect more radar energy. So metallic objects generally reflect more radar energy, and that is why they appear very bright, extremely bright. So this we have these three images. Okay, now we can use we can place these windows side by side or in vertical tile mode. So go to the window menu and click on tile vertically. Okay, so if you click on tile vertically, this three images will be displayed over here, or window tile horizontally. So these three windows will be displayed like this. Now see, here we have a tool. If you see, here we have a tool where I am targeting the mouse pointer. This tool will make these three images geographically linked. Okay, means if I pan one image, the other one will also be panned. If I zoom one image, then other one will also be zoomed at the same ratio. And see, this has an advantage. I mean, in case of optical remote sensing, we use geographical linking, so it is similar to the geographical linking. If we turn it off, for example, I'm turning it off, then this function is not available. Okay, and again you can activate it like it by clicking on this. Okay, now now it is work. Okay, so normally if we interpret multiple images, they should be geographically linked. Okay, now if we want to close any window, then just click on this close button, or you may go to window and close all documents. Now if we click on close all documents, all views will be closed, but the data is still there in the Product Explorer tab. So this was the bands. Now let me come to the Pixel Info tab. Okay, I'll come to the type and grid later. So go to the Pixel Info tab. In the Pixel Info tab, before going to the Pixel Info tab, first let me open or let me display two components of HH polarization, I component and Q component. Okay, so I mean one or more images should be displayed before going to the Pixel Info. So now go to the pixel info, and if we zoom into a level so that I can identify each and every pixel. Okay, can you see? Each pixel can be identified. Here, for each and every pixel, you will get the image x coordinate and image y coordinate. That is basically pixel coordinate system. In pixel coordinate system, the row number and the column number. Okay, x denotes the column number and y denotes the row number. And for each and every pixel, the latitude and longitude value. Okay, but remember, although we have the lat long value for each and every pixel, but this image is not geographically referenced. We have to make it geographically referenced. Actually, whenever the radar images are captured, for each and every pixel, the lat long information is stamped. Therefore, we get the lat long information for each and every pixel, but the image is not geographically referenced. Now, what is the I value? I value of HH polarization and Q value of HH polarization. For each and every pixel, you will get these values. Now, tie point grids, this provides the information like lat long information, latitude, longitude for each pixel, then incidence angle information, incidence angle for each and every pixel, and slant range time for each and every pixel. It is not giving the slant range distance, rather it is giving the slant range time. What does it mean by slant range time? Slant range time means the time that was required to reach the energy from the sensor platform to the target, and again from the target to the sensor platform. That means two-way time. Okay. Now we have to divide it by 2 to get the single way time, and then this single way time is necessary to be multiplied with the speed of light to get the slant range distance for each and every pixel. However, you do not have to do this. The software will perform all these tasks. But in the metadata file, we get the slant range time information. So slant range time is basically the two-way time of energy, energy incidence and energy exitance for each and every pixel, and this time is necessary to be divided by 2 and then multiplied by the speed of light to get the slant range distance. Okay, so these are the pixel info. Okay, now see, let me show one thing. See, for each and every pixel, we are getting the I component of HH polarization and Q component of HH polarization, because these two images are currently displayed. Now, if I close one display, for example, QHH, then you will get only one value. So, if you want to get all of the values, then you have to open all of these components. Okay. Now, come back to the Product Explorer again. Okay. So, in Product Explorer, go to the tie points grid and see. In tie points grid, this is the latitude component, latitude information. So, here we have the lower latitudes, and as we are progressing upward, the latitude is increasing, and as you can see, the pixel values are also increasing. Then longitude, here we have the lower longitude and here you have the higher longitude. For each and every pixel you have the lat long information. Okay, so lat long latitude longitude information are also providing image kind of thing. This is like image. Now, incidence angle, this is the incidence angle image. Okay, so this is the near range. From this image you can understand that the sensor was, just a minute, the sensor was over here and it was looking in this direction. Okay, and this is the near, this was the near range, this is the far range. Since these are the brighter pixels and these are the darker pixels, so if we have the lower value, then you will have darker pixels. If we have higher value, then it will have brighter appearance. Then also slant range time. So this slant range time, slant incidence angle image, longitude image, latitude image, and the I component of HH image. Okay, so now I think you can understand that what the information we can get about an image. This is the basic thing. And also, you know, if you go to the world view in this span, it is actually, it takes a lot of time to provide the view. It is still downloading in my computer. I have launched this data almost half an hour back, but still it is downloading. So anyway, leave it in your computer. It may take much longer time. In Snap software, they have said that the first operation you should perform on a radar image is the orbit correction. Orbit correction, what does it mean by orbit correction? Satellites are designed to follow a specific orbit, but it generally does not follow that orbit. Why? Because of several factors like lunisolar attractions and several reasons are there. You know it. That means the image we are processing, or the image that was initially processed, is basically based on the designed orbit. It is not based on the actual orbit of the satellite. So, but the satellites are continuously monitored from the ground stations, and their actual orbits can also be obtained later. And if we can get the actual orbit, then based on this actual orbit, this data is necessary to be processed again. This is called orbital correction. However, in none of the software other than Snap, you have this facility. You won't be able to perform orbit correction in none of the software other than the Snap. Further, in Snap also, this orbital information is only provided for the Sentinel data. Okay, European Space Agency Sentinel data. So, other than the Sentinel data, you won't be able to perform the orbit correction. Okay. Once we deal with the Sentinel data, definitely we shall discuss the orbit correction with the appropriate orbital data. Next is, you know, antenna pattern correction. Okay. Antenna pattern correction, as you know, what does it mean by antenna pattern? We have discussed theoretically. So if the radar is looking, sorry, just a minute. If the radar is looking from this direction, so the antenna is like this, and then, you know, in the image, the middle portion will appear brighter, and if you go to the fringe areas or towards the swath edge, it will become darker. But this is a property that is associated with the AirSat data, means from aerial platform. If the data is collected from the aerial platform, then only it has huge antenna pattern effect. But images captured from the satellites generally do not have antenna pattern problem. So again, the next step, antenna pattern, will also be discussed later. I'm not going to discuss the antenna pattern right now, how to correct the antenna pattern, but definitely I will discuss it later. The third processing that is necessary to be performed. See, these are the steps. You cannot you cannot shuffle these steps. First is the orbit correction. Second is the antenna correction, if required, or if the data are available. Then the third one is basically the multi-loop processing. Okay, multi-loop processing. We shall perform the multi-loop processing now. So, how to perform the multi-loop processing? Go to the radar menu. See, here we have lot of menus. Okay, this is for vector processing, this is for raster processing, this is for optical image processing, and this is for radar processing. So, most of the tools we shall use are from the radar menu. So, go to the radar menu, then go to the SAR utilities, and then multi-looping. Okay. Now see, if you click on multi-looping, the multi-loop processing dialog will appear. And first it is asking for the source product. So currently we have only one product opened over here, and there is this one. Okay. Product ID or product serial number will also be assigned. As you can see here, it is designating 1. So here also 1. So this is the source data. Now see, here we have the directory. Directory means where the image will be or the output image will be set after processing. So click on these 3 dots and then select your desired folder. You just create a folder named output to store the output images or the processed images. And under the output folder, let us create another folder, say what, RS2, RadarSat2. Okay, and I'm selecting this one. So now look in RS2 and then select, and this full path will be displayed over here. That means whatever I save, everything will be saved in this particular folder. Then the file name. Okay, this is the file name. File name, I do not recommend to change the file name. However, you have the freedom to change the file name. The file names will be given by the software and it will maintain a specific convention. For example, as you can see, this portion, this entire portion has been taken from the original file name. This is the entire portion that says the sensor name, single loop complex data, production ID, then capturing date, etc., etc. Then underscore ML means this is the multi-loop process data of this one. So this unique file name convention should be followed, I feel, and I never change the file names, but if you want, you can change it. And save as BIM DIMAP is DIMAP is basically the file name, native file format of Snap software. So leave this one as it is. Then open in Snap, check this one. By default, it will be checked on. This means that once the processing is complete, the data will be opened over here. Okay. And in the next tab, processing parameters, which image we want to process. Okay. Whether I component of HH polarization, U component of HH polarization, or both of them. In case of both of them, hold down the control key from your keyboard and click on different files and they will be selected for processing. If you select all of the files or all of the bands, then all of them will be processed. Now what if I don't select anything? Then also all of the bands will be processed if I don't select anything. So I am not selecting anything. Therefore, everything, I mean all of these bands will be considered for processing, multi-loop processing. What is multi-loop processing? We have discussed theoretically earlier. Then it will be converted into ground range square pixel. That means multi-loop processing will reduce the speckle effect, first of all, as we have discussed theoretically. And also, this slant range image will be converted into ground range image. Okay. Then number of range looks, I mean number of looks in the range direction and number of looks in the azimuth direction. If you check this one on this ground range square pixel, then the software will automatically determine the number of looks in the range direction as well as the azimuth direction for multi-loop processing. Just a brief for the what happens in multi-loop processing: multiple pixels are merged together to generate a larger pixel so that the speckle effects can be reduced. But definitely by sacrificing the spatial detail. Now, as you might have seen that the spatial resolution in both of the directions, azimuth and range, the resolution was almost 4 meters. But here, after multi-loop processing, the ground range square pixel resolution will become 9.7 meters. Okay. By default, if you don't want to use the default values, then uncheck this one, ground range square pixel, and then independent looks will be activated. And here you will have the freedom to change these values according to your preference. Okay. But this is recommended only for the experts, and normally at a degree of 2 or 3 or 4 we apply these values. And for example, if I put 2 over here and 4 over here, then what will happen? You know, the pixel size will become almost 19 meters. Okay, that means the spatial resolution will be sacrificed more. So therefore, to retain the spatial detail, it is not recommended to make the pixels much larger. Let the decision to be taken by the software automatically, and consider these default values, and also check this one. This means the intensity image will also be calculated in the output. Intensity image means, as you know, that root over I square plus Q square. So the intensity images will also be calculated. Okay. So these are all the parameters that you need to set. Okay. So now let us run it. So click on run. And as you can see, it has taken almost 3 seconds to process the data. It may take longer time in your computer depending on the RAM and the processing power you have in your computer. So let me close this one. And as you can see, a new data product has been added. But this time, data product 2, serial number 2, and in addition to the all previous file names, a new addition is _ML. That stands for multi-loop processing. Okay. Now let me show you. See, this is unique feature in Snap, that for each and every new product, all the information, metadata, vector data, type and grids, bands, everything will be assigned in the new file. That means somehow if you delete or if you lose the original file, you don't have to worry, because in the process data you have all the original information. Here also you have all these things, you know, incidence angle information, slant range information, latitude information, longitude information, all these information are there, even the metadata. So this is a unique feature in Snap that you may not find in other software. Then in the bands, okay, come to the bands. Intensity HH image, intensity HV image, intensity VH image. Okay. So see, let us click on intensity HH image. So this is the intensity HH image. Okay, it has determined, and also see if you can see that the dimension of the image has been changed. So let me show you the original image. This was the HH band. It was extremely long, whereas in case of process data, it became shorter. Why? Because of the multi-loop processing and because of the conversion of the image from the slant range image to the ground range image. So the image has been converted into slant range, ground range plane from the slant range plane. So we have obtained the ground range image. Okay, and this one was actually the slant range image. So the multi-loop processing not only reduces the speckle effect and reduces the dimension of the pixel. It also converts the image from the slant range to the ground range. Let me show you. ML2. Now see, in this image, we have the I component, Q component for HH, I component, Q component for HV, VH, okay, and also we have the virtual intensity bands. We have not calculated the intensity. That is why virtually it has been calculated by the software. Now, see, we shall proceed further with the second image, okay, second multi-loop processed image where we have the I component and Q component for individual polarization, okay. So although the image has been converted into ground range image, but still this image is not interpretable enough, and also still we have a lot of noise. And you know, the next processing is the backscatter image generation. Okay, backscatter image generation. Let me discuss with the backscatter image generation. Backscatter image means basically, you know, the amount of energy backscattered or reflected from the terrain. Okay, in case the term reflection we use for the optical remote sensing, but the term backscattered is preserved for the SAR images, or rather radar images. So backscattered image means basically the amount of energy reflected or backscattered from the terrain, and this calibration is the next process of multi-loop processing. Okay, you have to follow, I am repeating again, you have to follow the exact same sequence in each and every case. Okay, so backscattered image generation in some of the software, it is also known as radiometric normalization or radiometric calibration. So whatever you say, radiometric calibration or radiometric normalization or backscattered image generation, it is basically, you know, if we take a cross section of this image, for example, over here, if we take a cross section, then for the homogeneous area, for example, here we have the water bodies. So for the homogeneous area, we should have same pixel values for all of the pixels, since that surface material is same. And definitely for this area where we have the heterogeneous land cover, pixel values will be different. But as you can see, if you take a cross section over here, you do not have the same pixel value, or rather at least similar pixel values for the homogeneous areas. So in case of backscatter cross section image, if we take a cross section of the image, the pixel values of homogeneous surface will be similar. Okay. For example, all water pixels will have similar values. Normally, we do not see this. Radiometric calibration is performed to solve this issue. However, for the heterogeneous areas, the pixel values will be different, definitely. So now let us learn how to perform radiometric calibration. Go to the radar, then radiometric, then calibrate. Okay. So radiometric calibration, and from radiometric, in case of radiometric calibration, in the IO parameters, means input output parameters, first define the source product. What is the source product? The source product, choose the source product as the third product, multi-look 2. Okay, third product. And target name, the software will automatically give the file name. This time CAL will be added, means calibrated, radiometrically calibrated data. Folder, I have given already the folder name. Otherwise, you have to click on these 3 dots and you have to define the output folder name. Open in Snap, etc. Then go to the processing parameters. Okay. Processing parameters, you can select few bands, or if you leave it as it is, then all of these bands will be selected. So I am not selecting any one, so that all of the bands are processed. Then we have 4 options over here. Save as complex output, means this data will be converted into complex data. Save in dB. Okay, save in dB means it will be converted into sigma naught value. Then create gamma naught image, gamma naught virtual band, and create beta naught virtual band. Theoretically, we have discussed all these things, sigma naught, gamma naught, and beta naught, among which in majority of the instances we use the sigma naught value. Sigma naught means, as I told you, save in dB means basically sigma naught. Okay, so normally we use 2 different options. One is the sigma naught and another is the beta naught, but in majority of the instances we use the sigma naught. Okay, sigma naught we have discussed earlier, but still a recapture. Sigma naught is the backscatter returned to the antenna from a unit area on ground. It is corrected for the local incidence angle, so it considers local incidence angle for each and every pixel, and thus it will be in the ground range. Sigma naught is the usual measure used to evaluate the reflectivity condition of the surface independent from geometric effects. I mean, where the terrain is higher, where the altitude is lower, or what is the phase, I mean, what is the slope of the terrain. So these geometric effects will be minimized. Sigma naught is often used in scientific interpretation of SAR imagery, as the pixel values, as the pixel values are absolutely calibrated. Different SAR images in sigma naught notation can easily be compared. So this is another advantage. And additionally, experienced interpreters can experienced interpreters are able to retrieve information about surface scattering mechanisms and surface properties. And in a sigma naught image, the topographic impact on the backscatter is minimized, as I told you, the higher altitude, lower altitude, slope orientation, etc., etc. And the backscatter depends on the surface backscatter properties, and the image appears flat as if there was no undulation on the terrain. And it varies with radar wavelength and also with the polarization. Whereas beta naught is a measure of the backscatter that is returned to the antenna from a distributed scatterer on the ground, and beta naught is in slant range geometry. So if we are converting the image into ground range image, then definitely we should apply the sigma naught instead of the beta naught. Okay, if the image is in slant range plane, then we may apply beta naught. Beta naught is beta naught is as I told you that it is performed in slant range geometry, and as slant range pixels cover different areas which vary with the local incidence angle. So look angle and dim effect will be there, and beta naught contains a geometric impact on the radar backscatter. For example, the foreshortened areas will appear very bright in beta naught image, but in sigma naught image, foreshortened areas will not be that much of bright in comparison to the beta naught image. A beta naught image is also useful to compare images of different search sensors at different times and provides rough information about the surface scattering mechanism and surface properties. So if we want to get the information about the surface scattering mechanism and surface properties, and also we want to ignore the foreshortening brightness, or even we want to ignore the terrain variation or the slope variation, so definitely we should go for the sigma naught, and that is why in most of the operations we go for the sigma naught instead of the beta naught. Okay, so here click save in dB, means it will be converted into sigma naught image. Okay, so then click on run. So here we have the beds. Okay, so this is the sigma naught HH image. Okay, and also sigma naught HV, VH, and VV images will be provided. Okay, this image, as you can see, a little bit interpretable, and also the noise has been reduced, but still it has a lot of problems. I mean, features cannot be identified properly. Okay, so this is the problem with the radar image. As I told you, our next processing is basically speckle filtering. We need to filter the speckles. I mean, we have to apply a special filter, and if we apply a special filter, then ultimately we will get a better image. So next step is how to perform speckle filtering. So go to the radar menu again, go to the radar menu, and then speckle filtering, and see single product speckle filtering, multi-temporal speckle filtering. We have discussed it theoretically. Single product speckle filtering means basically spatial filtering will be applied. Say 3 by 3, 5 by 5, or 7 by 7 pixels will be considered, and average of all these pixels will be applied to the center pixel of the window. Whereas multi-temporal speckle filtering means multiple images taken from different times of the same geographical area will be averaged to generate the multi-temporal speckle filter image. Okay, so multi-temporal averaging, we are not going to apply multi-temporal averaging. We shall also definitely discuss the multi-temporal averaging technique later, but for this moment we are going to use single product speckle filter. So click on the single product speckle filter. Okay, And in the single product speckle filter, what will be the input image? Input image will be the calibrated one. Okay, the last one, calibrated one. And this is the file name automatically given, output for folder name, save as type, etc., etc. Leave all these things as it is. And in the processing parameter, source bands, do not select anything. It will select all of the bands. And then we have the filter. Okay. So we have the Lee Sigma filter. I mean, different types of filters are there. Now, which one will give the ultimate result? It is not known to us. Therefore, it is recommended to go for a trial and error method to get the optimum output. However, for this image, we found that gamma map provides better output, and it is very simple filtering, very simple spatial. It is like spatial convolution filtering, and we are giving the file. I mean. Filter size, there is the window size 3 by 3 or 5 by 5 or 7 by 7. Okay. So let us consider say 7 by 7. Okay. So 7 by 7 neighbors will be considered. All of you, I think all of you are aware of spatial filtering, so it does not require discussion. 7 by 7 and click on run. Although the radar images are complex data, but the processing techniques are rather very simple. So close it and see for the last image. Let us open an image. See the wonderful product. And if you compare the previous product of the same polarization, you will be amazed that how it has been enhanced a spatial filtering. Can you see? This is the difference. Okay, it will be processed further. Okay, now what we have obtained? We have obtained multi-look processed, radiometrically calibrated and speckle filtered data. The original image was processed for multi-look processing, then it was radiometrically calibrated, and after the radiometric calibration we have applied speckle filtering. So the data that is being displayed over here is multi-look processed, radiometrically calibrated and speckle filtered data. Now see, I will go for further processing, but before that, in this project we have already created several files. We have 5 files already created, and we have created 4 files basically. One was the original one. So at this moment we may need to save this project, so that next time once we open the project, all of these files open automatically. Okay, we do not need to open these files one by one and finding them one by one. So how to save this image, this project? Let me explain. Go to the file and you have session and then save session. Okay, so click on save session and now choose your desired folder. Data output RS2, say SF San Francisco underscore RS2, radar set 2. Okay, file extension will be snap session. This is called snap session file. Click on save. Session saved. Okay, now if we close everything, or if we close the software, say for example, let me close everything. Right mouse button, close product, or right mouse button, close all product. So everything will be closed. you know. And then again, if we want to open the project, go to the file, session, open session. This will close or reopen the current session. Do you want to continue? Yes. Then select the appropriate folder and then the session file and click on open, and automatically it will open all the files. See, we shall interpret this image later. I will come to the interpretation. But before that, terrain correction is required. This is the last step for the visual image interpretation. Okay. Before interpreting the images visually, we have to go for the multi-look processing, radiometric calibration, speckle filtering, and finally terrain correction. For the terrain correction, what happens, although as I told you that although for each and every pixel, latitude, longitude values are associated with them, but these images are not geographically referenced. They are not geo-referenced image. So they are necessary to be geographically referenced, and the image will be north side up orientation, as we see in our maps. North side remains towards the up. For the radiometric correction, we need digital elevation model. For the terrain correction. For the terrain correction, we need digital elevation model of that area. Actually, since the orthorectification is performed, for the orthorectification, it requires the digital elevation model. Now see, we do not have the digital elevation model here, but if you go to the data set, you will find that they have provided the SRTM DEM over here. Okay. So shuttle radar topographic mission DEM is provided over here. You can use this DEM. Otherwise, since the SRTM DEM is freely available, it can be directly downloaded in the Snap software. Okay. It is not necessary that in each and every case the image supplying agency will also provide you the DEM. So you may not have the DEM. So if you don't have the DEM, then the option is you have to download the data directly in the Snap software. I will explain how to do it. Later I will show you how to use the provided DEM. I mean, if you have the DEM of that geographic area already, then it can also be used. I will explain it later. But before that, how to download the DEM, SRTM DEM or any other DEM directly from the internet. So in the image band, in the last product number 5, in the bands, press right mouse button. Oh no. In the product name, not on the bands. In the product name, number 5 product, press right mouse button and click on add elevation band. So the elevation band will be added. If you click on add elevation band, one dialog box will appear and it will ask you to select what kind of DEM you want to download. So select SRTM 1 arcsecond HGT auto download. SRTM, the last word 1, SRTM 1 arcsecond HGT auto download. It is basically a 30-meter DEM, 30-meter digital elevation model. We can obtain very high spatial resolution digital elevation model by using the interferometric SAR. We shall discuss interferometric SAR later. But right now, we are using the SRTM DEM of 30-meter spatial resolution. Okay. And click on OK. What will be the band name? Let us define the band name. Let us keep it as elevation and click on OK. So once you click on OK, as you can see in the bands, in addition to this original bands or this polarized sigma naught bands, one band elevation has also been added. Okay. Now, double click on this elevation band. If you double click on this elevation band, it will be downloaded and it will be displayed. Okay. It may take some time depending on the processing power of the computer and the stability of the internet connection. So this is the DEM of this area, San Francisco area. Okay. Anyway, so this DEM has been downloaded. Now close it. Once it has been downloaded, just close it. Now see, we have added the elevation band. Okay. Now we will go for the terrain correction. So go to the radar, geometric, terrain correction, and range Doppler terrain correction. Any image can be processed by using this range Doppler terrain correction. And this range Doppler terrain correction is very powerful. And since for each and every pixel we have the lat long values, so georeferencing is not a big problem. And Doppler effect, radar Doppler effect will also be considered in case of terrain correction, slant range distance, slant range angle, look angle, slant range distance, all these things will also be considered, and accordingly the geometric correction will be performed. So let us say how to do it. Click on this range Doppler terrain correction. Now, which image will be corrected? The last one, calibrated speckle. Okay. Then file name is given by the software automatically. Output folder name as it is, leave it, and go to the processing parameters. Now, which bands you want to use for the geometric correction? I want to use everything. Okay, let us select everything. Then digital elevation model. Select SRTM 1 arc second HGT. This one. Okay, SRTM 1 arc second HGT auto downloaded. Okay, if you have the DEM already in your disposal, then go for external DEM. If you choose the external DEM, then it will ask for the external DEM, and if you have to click on these 3 dots, and then you can select the DEM file like this one, this PC, then SAR data, radar set 2, radar set 2, radar set 2, then SRTM, then SRTM, this one, TIFF file. Okay. However, we are not using the external DEM, rather we are using SRTM 1 arc second HGT auto downloaded. Okay. Then DEM resampling method. Okay. In DEM resampling method, use bilinear interpolation. Image resampling method, use bilinear interpolation. You know all these things: nearest neighbor interpolation, bilinear interpolation, cubic convolution, then bicubic spline means 5 by 5. So let us keep this one bilinear. Bilinear is basically a balance in between the nearest neighbor and cubic convolution. Then source ground resolution pixel spacing was 9.65 meter by 9.78 meter, and after the georeferencing, the pixel spacing will be 9.78 meter after the resampling. And pixel spacing in degree, it is giving the value in degree also in addition to the meter. However, we are not interested in the degrees. Then map projection. What will be the map projection? Okay, so here if you click on this box, you can select different types of projections. For example, transverse marketer, okay, or universal transverse marketer, etc., etc. However, we are not going to assign any projection, or we are not going to change any projection. Simply, we are using the this one, WGS 1984, and values in decimal degrees. That is basically the geographical coordinates will be assigned to this image. No projection will be performed. Okay. And mask out areas without elevation is one option. Means the areas, geographic areas, where we do not have the elevation, say for example sea areas, okay, will be masked out. The entire sea will be masked, okay, and there will be no pixel for this sea areas. But we do not want to mask the sea area. When do we mask the sea area? For example, we are dealing with the land surface. We are not dealing with the sea surface. Okay. So in that case, we can mask out the sea to reduce the number of pixels and to make the processing faster. But if we want to find out the oceanographic features, or the oceanographic applications are also there, like we want to determine the sea wind, sea direction, ships, oil spills, so all these or the sea ice, so all these applications will definitely require the sea areas. So we are not going to mask the sea area, we are turning it off. Then output bands, selected source bands, means all of the selected source bands will be given in the output. DEM can also be given in the output. Lat long images can also be given in the output. However, we are selecting only the selected source bands and DEM. That's all. We do not require further lat long values and all these things, because once the image is geographically referenced for each and every pixel, we can get the lat long values, and lat long images are no more required. Incidence angle image or local incidence angle image, projected local incidence angle image, these images are no more required. So well, this was the description, and now see apply radiometric normalization. Again, you have the option to go for the radiometric normalization. I mean, without calibrating the image, without having the radiometric calibration, directly we can apply radiometric calibration, and directly we can generate the sigma naught value and terrain correction. So we can perform the terrain correction and we can generate the sigma naught image simultaneously. However, since we have already generated the sigma naught image, that is why this option is not applicable for us. So only we are going for the terrain correction. So now I'm clicking on run. So if I click on run, this image will be created. Terrain corrected image will be created. It will take some time because it is performing the auto rectification. But you know, still this software is very fast in comparison to any other software. Okay, so it has taken 44 seconds in my computer to complete the task. Let's close it, and number 6 product has been generated, and in number 6 product we have the bands. See the HH, HV, VH, VV, elevation HH. This is basically wrong data it has created, and the elevation also it has created. Elevation, I mean DEM band also it has created, but these are not required. You know, we are going to interpret the original image. So this is the sigma naught HHDB after geometric correction, and as you can see, the image has been rotated. Why it has been rotated? To make it north side up orientation, and also some stretching you may find because of the georeferencing, it required to stretch the image. So this is the image, and now I will go for some few this visual image interpretation and object identification. Now see, From this image, it is clear to you that these areas are basically water bodies, so sea areas. Okay, and here we have a bridge. Okay, but see, up to this point, the bridge is of metallic thing. I mean, made of some metal or some metallic structure is there. But after that, we have the concrete, and that is why it is appearing blackish in this area, and in this area it is very bright. Okay, here we have a dock area, and that is why very bright pixels are there. And also, as you can see, this is urban area, urban infrastructure. It is appearing extremely bright because of the corner reflection. And here we have a park, I mean vegetated area, mixed reflectance over here, and here also we have vegetated area. In these areas, we have actually some rural settlements, and since in rural settlements, houses are built apart, and some vegetated areas are also there, and building height is not too high. Therefore, corner reflection does not happen. That is why these areas are appearing comparatively darker in comparison to this high-rise buildings. Here also we have a bridge, and definitely there is a metallic structure because we have extremely high reflectance for the dielectric property. Here also we have a bridge, and definitely it is made of metal. Here we have a runway, and because of very smooth surface of the runway, this is basically an airport. So very smooth surface of the runway, because of the specular reflection, the energy is going out of the, outside of the location of the sensor, and the energy is not coming towards the sensor, and it is appearing very black, extremely black. And also here we have another airport. This is the airport building. As you can see, very high reflectance we can observe over here, and these blackish areas are basically runway, and runways are appearing like this because of the specular reflection. Bitumen roads, bitumen highways are also appearing blackish because of the specular reflection. And these are the, here we have the variable terrain, and because of the variable terrain, several foreshortening and layover you can observe. We also have variable terrain over here, as you can see. Okay, and clearly we can clearly show you that this is one layover, and here we have the foreshortening. Here we have the foreshortening effect. So foreshortening and layover effect can be observed in this variable terrain. We have chosen this data because in this data we have the urban infrastructure, we have the rural infrastructure, we also have the metallic infrastructure, we also have the sea, we also have the flat terrain, we also have the variable terrain, and we also have these ships in the sea, and we also have the oil spill. I will show you later. So all these things are there. Now see, you can interpret the image visually, and you can try to identify the objects. And here we have, as I told you, that here we have a dock area. Now see, often for the visual image interpretation, we may need to compare with the optical images, because optical images are always appealing to us, and they have a specific geometry type that matches with our experience, and also the color appearances they provide, that is also appealing to us. And as you know that human eye can interpret only 40 to 50 shades of gray, but human eye can interpret or identify or differentiate millions of colors. That is why color images are always preferred to the human eye, because we can extract more information. So we can compare this image with the optical images. Okay, and if you have Google Earth pre-installed in your computer, then it will be very simple. I'm demonstrating, and if you don't have the Google Earth pre-installed in your computer, please install it and practice it later. So Next, I'm going to export in Google Earth. How to export in Google Earth? For example, I want to export this portion. Okay, so bring this portion in the view. First, bring this portion in the view and right click on the view, and here we have the option export view as Google Earth KMZ. So it will be converted into Google Earth file. Okay, only this portion that is being displayed. So click on export view as Google Earth KMZ. Okay, so give the file name and also select your folder. Output. Say ASAP, San Francisco. File extension will be KMZ and click on save. Anyway, go to the first launch the Google Earth. Okay, so it has been loaded. Now go to the file, open, and go to the folder where you have saved it. Star data output sf.kmz. Open. So automatically it will direct you to the specified location. Now see, this is the image. Let the optical images download with appropriate detail. Can you see? And it has almost matched with the Google Earth. Can you see? You can turn it on or off to compare. So this was all about exporting the image in Google Earth. Next is if we want to export the image in some other remote sensing or GIS software or in any other software. So in that case, this image can be exported. Okay. In the product explorer, select a specific product. Okay, for example, this one, number 6 product, serial number 6. Go to file and then export. Export. Now, in which format you want to export? SAR format or GeoTIFF format or NV file format or HDF file format or JPG file format. In any file format you can export. So let us consider the GeoTIFF file format. So just click on GeoTIFF where it will be saved. So select the folder and give the file name and click on export product. Now this image or this product has been exported in TIFF file format that can be opened in any GIS or remote sensing software.